How did ancient humans know winter was coming? The sun is setting earlier now. You've noticed it for weeks. The shadows are longer, the days are shorter, the nights are colder. But you already knew winter was coming. You knew it months ago. You knew it when the birds started flying south. You knew it when the herd began moving to lower ground. You knew it when the first leaves changed color. And you know something else. You know that if you don't prepare, you will die. So you begin. You repair your shelter. You stockpile food. You gather firewood. You make warmer clothing. You do all of this not because someone told you winter was coming. You do it because you know how to read the signs. But how? How did ancient humans know winter was coming when they had no thermometers, no weather satellites, no meteorologists, no apps? When we think about ancient survival, we tend to focus on the physical. How did they stay warm? How did they find food? How did they build shelter? But here's a question that almost no one asks. How did they know to prepare in the first place? This is the story of how ancient humans predicted winter, and it reveals something surprising about human intelligence. Today, if we want to know when winter is coming, we check the weather forecast. A computer model analyzes billions of data points. Satellites photograph the planet. Meteorologists tell us exactly what to expect. But for 99% of human history, there were no computers, no satellites, no meteorologists. There was only observation, experience, and knowledge passed down through stories. Most people assume ancient humans were at the mercy of the seasons. They just reacted. They didn't plan. But archaeology tells a very different story. Ancient humans predicted winter with astonishing accuracy, and they did it using methods that scientists are only now beginning to understand. Let's start with the simplest method, the stars. Ancient people were obsessive sky watchers. They had to be. In the 8th millennium BC, hunter-gatherers in Scotland built a remarkable structure at Warren Field in Aberdeenshire. It wasn't a house, it wasn't a temple, it was something else entirely. A pit alignment. 12 pits carved into the earth, mimicking the phases of the moon. When researchers analyzed the site, they made a stunning discovery. The pit group was structured to track lunar months. It also aligned on the southeastern horizon with a topographic point associated with sunrise on the midwinter solstice. This allowed the people who built it to follow the movement of the moon across a year and also know when the winter solstice was approaching. The researchers concluded this site may provide the earliest evidence currently available for time reckoning. This was nearly 5,000 years before the first formal calendars were created in Mesopotamia. 5,000 years. That means hunter-gatherers in Scotland had both the need and the ability to track time across the year. They could predict winter. But here's what makes this truly remarkable. This knowledge wasn't just for survival, it was woven into their culture. The winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, was a time of renewal, the return of light. Understanding the cycles of the sky wasn't just practical, it was sacred. Now, let's travel from Scotland to the Mediterranean. On the island of Ustica, near Sicily, there is a prehistoric settlement called Villaggio dei Faraglioni. It dates to the Middle Bronze Age, about 3,500 years ago. The settlement is one of the best preserved prehistoric villages in the Mediterranean. But here's the part that surprises archaeologists. The village might have been selected because of its privileged position with respect to the landscape. Not because it was defensible, not because it had water, because it allowed the inhabitants to track the sun. From the village, it was possible to watch the rising and setting of the sun in the months close to the winter solstice on two elevated peaks on the opposite side of the island. This allowed the inhabitants to determine the day of the winter solstice with an approximation of a few days. They used this partial calendar for agricultural and navigational purposes. Think about what this means. These people chose where to build their homes specifically to track the seasons. They didn't just notice winter coming. They built their entire community around the need to know. In the American Southwest, the ancestral Pueblo people did something similar. They carved petroglyphs and painted pictographs to follow the cycle of the sun, moon, and stars. They tracked equinoxes and solstices. They oriented settlements, buildings, and architectural features to mark astronomical time. At Fajada Butte in Chaco Canyon, they created what's known as the sun dagger. A spot of sunlight falls on a spiral, forming a dagger shape that extends across the spiral and then disappears. Depending on the time of year, this marks the summer solstice, winter solstice, and equinoxes. This is not primitive superstition. This is science. But here's something even more impressive. They didn't just watch the sun, they watched everything. Animals, plants, wind, clouds, water, everything. In ancient Arabia, Bedouins developed a system called Anwa. The Anwa is the name they gave to groups of stars and constellations that they came to associate with certain times of the year. The appearance and disappearance of these constellations as the world rotated allowed them to predict the seasons. For example, the star Suhail, known in Latin as Canopus, is the second brightest star in the night sky. When Suhail appeared, it meant the summer was ending and autumn was beginning. It was a sign to adjust schedules for pearl diving, farming, and fishing. Other stars were also used. The Pleiades, known in Arabic as Al-Thuraya, marked the start of the planting season. Aldebaran, another bright star, marked a transition to hotter weather. This knowledge was based on centuries of careful sky watching and oral tradition. But here's the thing. The Bedouins didn't just watch the stars, they also watched the animals. An increase in scorpions indicated coming rain. The increased activity of ants signified an impending storm. The migratory patterns of birds signaled the coming winter. This is a critical insight. Ancient humans didn't rely on a single method. They built systems. They layered knowledge. Star patterns confirmed what animal behavior suggested. Animal behavior confirmed what plant patterns showed. Plant patterns confirmed what wind direction indicated. Together, these created a comprehensive picture of what was coming. But how do scientists know this is true? Archaeoastronomy, the study of ancient astronomical knowledge, has provided remarkable evidence. In 2013, researchers published a study on the Warren Field site in Scotland. Using computer modeling and analysis of the pit alignments, they demonstrated that the site was designed for time reckoning. In 2025, a study in Scientific Reports analyzed climate seasonality during the Middle Stone Age. The researchers used standardized bioclimatic simulations and time series decomposition algorithms. They showed that ancient humans in North Africa had to deal with higher temperature seasonality, and that people in these regions had to invest in specific risk mitigation strategies for dealing with seasonally mobile resources. This is academic language for a simple truth. Ancient humans had to prepare for winter. They had to know when it was coming, and they did. But here's the most surprising part. This knowledge was not limited to modern humans. Neanderthals also understood the seasons. Researchers at the University of York analyzed Neanderthal hunting patterns. They found that Neanderthals actively planned their hunting seasons. They knew where to find animals and when. They moved with the seasons. They anticipated winter. This means the ability to predict winter predates Homo sapiens. It is an ancient human ability, deeply encoded in our biology and culture. Now, here's something that will surprise you. This knowledge didn't just help people survive, it shaped how they thought. The concept of time, the idea of cycles, the understanding that the world is ordered and predictable. All of this came from watching the sky, the rhythm of the seasons, the movement of the stars, the phases of the moon. These observations gave birth to the very concept of a calendar. The word calendar comes from the Latin calende, meaning the first day of the month. But the idea of a calendar is much older than Latin. It is as old as humanity itself. Ancient humans knew winter was coming. They knew it because they had been watching the sky for millions of years. They knew it because they had been paying attention to the world around them. They knew it because their survival depended on it. The next time you check the weather forecast, the next time you complain that winter is coming too early, the next time you're surprised by cold weather, remember, someone once knew winter was coming months in advance, with nothing but the stars, the animals, and the wind. And because they knew, they survived. And because they survived, We are here today. We are the descendants of the people who looked up at the sky and understood. We are the descendants of the people who knew winter was coming and prepared. The night is getting longer now, but you know what's coming. You've known it for months. You watch the stars. You watch the sky. You know the signs. And because you know, you will survive.